Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Metaphysical Bible Hangout. I am Reverend Sherri James. I am Senior Minister of Understanding Principles for Better Living Church, and I am so excited to be here. And I have to say, I like it. Well, I see folks are here. Hey, everybody. I want to invite you, if you're interested in coming into the live room, just raise your hand as a question and I can pull you in. But I'm really excited about tonight's conversation. Well, first of all, this is actually my first time working with this text that we're going to be talking about tonight. And Hypatia is she's phenomenal. She's absolutely phenomenal. So we're going to dig in and pull out the information that she has. And I'm excited to share it with you. So let me just go right to the PowerPoint. Welcome. Oh, that up? Nope, not that one. Okay. So our conversation tonight is, have you ever wondered how prayer works? And we're going to be talking about the how and why of positive prayer. And I'm excited about this chapter. I can't say that enough, because she opens the chapter with the statement that many people may not need to know how and why positive prayer works. To them, the information that Jesus taught and used positive prayer is sufficient to warrant their learning and practicing it. But this conversation tonight is really for people like me, who I want to know how something works. I remember having a conversation with Reverend Alice, who is was the senior minister for Living Truth Center in Cleveland, Ohio. And she said, you new guys, you new generation, y'all always need to know how and why something works. For us, Johnny just said, do it. We did it and it worked. And that was that. And now here comes, Generation X, Generation Y, a couple of millennials. And every time we get ready to do something, we want to know, well, why are we doing it that way? Well, why? And so this chapter, I feel, is for anybody who's ever wondered, well, how and why does prayer work? What is that about? So that's tonight's conversation. And I think it's going to be a powerful one. And I just look forward to having it with you. Hey, Phyllis. Hey, Eves. A shout out to everybody out there. Thank you guys for your comments. This is going to be a wonderful experience, and I look forward to it. Our outline is pretty straightforward. I've got a couple of announcements. We'll jump into our opening prayer. Prayer matters. And then we'll look at the law of mind action. And then we'll talk about the power of your attention. And then we'll close with how prayer works, and then Q&A. And of course, you can ask questions all throughout. So if there's anything that is unclear, just let me know and we'll get to it. So what's your why? Why the Bible Hangout? Why every week, and why free? And tonight, this is great, because when I logged in, and even now, and I don't know if anybody's having a technical difficulty, but normally I have people down in the film strip. And tonight when I logged in, there was nobody there. And I was like, okay, I always said that even if I had to just teach the mirror, I'd teach the mirror. So, so be it. So I'm glad to see all y'all in the chat room. But even if it were just me, there's a need in my soul to teach, and there's a personal high that I get that is like no other. And I remember working the last job that I worked before I was, full-time ministry, and I had the responsibility of training my callers for the types of phone calls that they were doing to donors. Making to donors. And I remember the elation that I felt finished the session after I'd finished saying, explaining, how and why we make these calls, the way that you talk to a donor, the way that you cultivate that relationship. And there was just a euphoria. So there's this way I'm not explaining. There's just a euphoria that I felt at the conclusion of that training session. And I said to Reverend Sherri, who at the time, we were both still in seminary, I said, I don't know what I'm doing next, but I know that teaching has got to be a part of it. And so it's just something that I must do. And so tonight when I logged in and there was nobody in the film strip, I was like, I guess I have called this forward. I will be teaching to the air. So whoever's out there, hey. But I really do. I really do love teaching. And so this platform is really an opportunity for me to share things that I study in my own personal study that have been helpful to me that I want to be helpful to you. This course of study we meet here every Thursday night is free. But it does cost money to bring it forward. And so if you are moved by what you hear, if it helps you, would you consider making a donation? And a gift of any amount is appreciated because it means it offsets the cost of the work that it takes and the services that it takes to actually pull all of this together. And so I thank you in advance for any gift that you decide to make. And I thank you for everyone who has ever made a gift. I really appreciate it. It's made a difference. And thank you. Thank you very much. So how this series works, we're doing something different this time. So normally when we have done the series, and we've been doing the Bible Hangout now for over 3 years, actually coming up on the 3rd anniversary this month. It was September 2013 when the first Bible Hangout started. So 3 years. So this is like the anniversary month. But anyway, so the way that it has worked is that there's always been a blog post and there's always been a Thursday night class, and the blog post and the class have mirrored one another. What we're doing this time, and it fits because we're in the midst of a prayer series, we've been hosting a mastermind group. That has been off the chain. If you are available at 6 o'clock Pacific on Wednesdays, it's free. You know, there are lots of masterminds where you have to pay like a lot of money to be a part of. You know, if you try to get to one of the masterminds that, you know, Jeff Walker or Tony Robbins or Brendan Burchard or Pat Flynn or any of those guys do, there's a dollar figure that's attached to it. This is free. So Wednesday nights, 6 o'clock. I guess I should say I'm using freeconferencecallhd.com, and it's a long distance call. So for the cost of a long distance call, you can be a part of an incredible energy. And so it is a wonderful experience. If you are interested, I highly encourage you to join us Wednesdays, 6 o'clock p.m. Pacific. And if you email me at Sherri@revsherri.com, I will, or just put it in the comments below the YouTube video, I will add your name to the email distribution. I send it from my personal email versus an email service. We don't record the calls because we want to keep the environment personal, and so that people can feel safe to voice their deepest desires. This fan is, turn it off. It keeps blowing. I thought about this. Somebody watching is gonna be like, she got a fan blowing. So they can, no, that's not it. The fan is blowing because it's hot and there's no air conditioning in this place. But if it keeps going, I might have to turn it off. So anyway, I say all that to say, join the mastermind. I think you will love it. We are in the midst of a 21-day challenge at Up Church. Now, I'm the senior minister of Understanding Principles, and our sermon series right now is called Big, Bold Moves. It's your time. 21 days of courageous choices. And this series is being taught by our assistant minister, Reverend Sherri Thompson. And so this is an invitation. If you're in the Los Angeles area, join us, but also check our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/ Upchurch, I think, Upchurch LA or Upchurch. I don't know. Anyway, if you go to my personal page, you'll be able to navigate to it because it's one of the pages I've liked. And it's one of the pages obviously that I'm an admin on, and you'll be able to follow along. And so we've been posting the sermons. We've been posting the daily challenges. We even have recorded messages that Reverend Sherri has prepared. And it's just a really rich series. And it's, if you are sick and tired of being sick and tired and you're ready to do something different, well, you're going to have to be different. And that requires you to make a big, bold move. And the way we work this, because nothing happens externally until it first happens internally, we work with you on the things to do inwardly to help you then turn around and do the things you want to do outwardly. So if you want to be a part of this series, go to our Facebook page. You'll be able to get access to the audio clips, to the sermons, to the journals, because there's journals for every week. So for all of that, you'll be able to get that information. And so I encourage you to check that out and be a part of it. It's a wonderful series, and it is really an opportunity to move. If you are feeling stuck, this is an opportunity for you to move forward. The scripture for this series is whatever you ask for in prayer with faith, you will receive. And that's Matthew 21:22. Whatever you ask for in faith, whatever you ask for in prayer with faith, you will receive. And our opening prayer, if you could just take a moment to just relax, to know that there is only one power, there is only one presence. That power, that presence is God, the good, omnipotent, the everywhere, evenly present spirit of absolute good. Father, Mother God, we just ask that you anoint this class tonight. You know the work that has been prepared for it, but I put it in your hands, and I ask that you guide this lesson, guide this conversation so that each person receives what he or she needs. And I give thanks in advance for the blessings that will come for each person who is here tonight and those who watch this broadcast afterwards. And I thank you for right words so that I may reach the hearts of your people and touch them and bring them into closer relationship with you. I thank you. I thank you. Thank you for this platform. And I thank you for the blessings that will come from this evening. In the name and nature of Jesus the Christ, I affirm that it is so. And so it is. And amen. So have you ever wondered why prayer works? And this slide we see every week. And the only thing that's different is the changes to match the header for the blog post in the series. And prayer matters because it's your most powerful tool to change the impressions in your subconscious. Prayer is your most powerful tool to change the impressions in your subconscious. So we're going to talk about this a lot later, but what I'll say for right now is that your life is a reflection of what is in the subconscious mind. What you think, what you feel is in the heart. Prayer is the most effective and the most powerful tool that you have to change what is in the heart. In the absence of prayer, the heart remains the same. I'll say that again. In the absence of prayer, the heart, the subconscious phase of mind, remains the same. And so you are left to show up for life the way that you have always shown up for life. And the reason that life looks the way that it does is because of how you have shown up for life. So in order for life to be different for you, you have to first be different. Prayer is your only tool. I believe, I'm sure somebody would argue for another tool, but I believe that prayer is your only tool for consciousness transformation. It's the only tool you have. There are lots of different types of prayers. There's the prayer of affirmation. There's the prayer of denial. There's the prayer of claiming, and all kinds of different prayers. But the thing is that the only thing that changes character is prayer. And without a change in character, everything about your life looks the same. And so that's why prayer matters. That what we're doing here and why this series is so powerful is that there is no change absent prayer. And if that's something that you work with, let's talk about it. Like, where, if there's a resistance that you have to that statement, let me know. I want to know if it doesn't land with you and you go, wait a minute, and you have a experience, and let's dissect it. So I'm not asking you to just take what I say lock, stock, and barrel. This is what I'm getting from my spiritual work, but I'm open if you see it differently, if you perceive it differently. But prayer is important because it's the most powerful tool you have to change who you are at depth. And when you change who you are, let me say it this way, and I think that hopefully this will land with you. So when I think about the management of money, and I'm in the process of reading John D. Rockefeller's biography, which is a powerful book called Titan. One of the things about John D. Rockefeller, and that contributed to him becoming really the richest man in our country, is how he showed up for money. And from a very young age, he was extremely meticulous with managing the resources that he had. And he kept like a ledger. And he wrote down every expense. And in his early career, before Standard Oil, before the investments and all the things that went on to make him a billionaire, he was very poor, but he was very meticulous. Now, this grew out of his spiritual training as a Baptist person. He's a very devout Baptist, very devout Baptist. And this was part of what he believed was his responsibility for managing the resources that God gave him. And so he knew to the penny what went out and what came in. So there's, and what I'm learning reading his biography is that there's a way that you show up for money. And now mindfulness for money may look different from person to person, but to a one, there is no one living a millionaire lifestyle that does not have some level of mindfulness, deep level of mindfulness about money and about the accumulation and the investment of money. If, let's say, all things being equal, you're looking at my finances, you're looking at the or let me say, let's take my finances. And I sit down and look at my finances. There are things that I'm going to see. There are opportunities that I'm going to see. There are disadvantages that I'm going to see. But there's a way that I'm going to look at my finances. Someone like a John D. Rockefeller, looking at my finances, looking at the same set of numbers, is going to see an entirely different thing because of what's happening in his consciousness in regards to money. And whereas I may look at my situation and make choices that keep it in a certain state, the same circumstances, but looked at by someone with a money consciousness is going to see it differently and begin to move the puzzle pieces around differently. When we talk about being changed at depth and changing the consciousness that we have about money, about health, about love, about whatever, it doesn't matter, jobs, career advancement, friendships, whatever, raising children. If we want to change the way that we show up for life, if I want to change the way that I show up for money, then I must be changed at depth, right? I must be shifted at depth. The only way to do that is prayer. And so that's why prayer matters. That's why I think this series is probably the most important series that we've done since I've been doing the Bible Hangout. It's that important. So what I said in the beginning was that this lesson tonight is about the how and the why. Like how is it that prayer works? And so I'm going to walk you through a spiritually scientific understanding of prayer and why and how prayer works. And the reason that prayer works is because of a spiritual law called the law of mind action. Prayer works because of a law called the law of mind action. And the law of mind action is very simple. Thoughts held in mind reproduce after their own kind. Thoughts held in mind reproduce after their own kind. This is, you probably have heard that before in some form or fashion. But here's what matters. Every thought, whether it is positive or negative, is a self-multiplying unit of energy. Every thought is a self-multiplying unit of energy. It reproduces itself and it attracts to itself that which is like itself. So if you take a thought like a feeling of sadness, that sadness is a self-multiplying unit of energy. It's going to reproduce itself, so to produce other thoughts of sadness. It is also going to attract to itself other thoughts that match it in terms of vibration. So thoughts are self-multiplying units of energy. And this is important for a couple of reasons. One being that like if you find yourself in a train of thought, right? because we know this from an anecdotal standpoint, that you can be caught in a train of thought. In fact, you may have been caught in a train of thought today, depending on what it was. It could be a positive train of thought. It could be a negative train of thought. It doesn't really matter. It's just a train of thought. And the reason being is that it's that magnetic nature, it's that self-multiplying nature of thought. It is an energy that recreates itself. And so the thoughts that you think matter, because then they recreate themselves. You know, if you have ever reflected on an unpleasant experience, that's the other thing, is that thoughts have a weight, or no, they're weightless, but they have the mass. That's a better way to say it. And that's really the way that science talks about it, that thoughts themselves are weightless, but they have mass. Like that, you cannot deny their, there's a weightiness to them, even though they are weightless. They're non-physical, but they have depth and they take up space. And you know this because if you've ever reflected on an unpleasant experience, it just felt heavy. You know, if you think back to, say, a mistake that you made that you really wish you hadn't made, right? And just reflecting back on it, it just feels heavy to your soul, right? And that's how thoughts are, that thoughts take up space in that way, that they have a heaviness to them, or they have a mass to them. And they can weigh you down. They can also buoy you up. If you have ever been, last night I got an opportunity to attend a concert at the Hollywood Bowl, and it was called Black Movie Soundtracks, and they played music from a number of soundtracks with Prince, and of course, you know, this year is the year that Prince made his transition, and so Layla Hathaway sang Purple Rain, which was transcendent. She sang Purple Rain. And so she got to that point where at the end of the song, where the Prince is doing the ooh-oohs, like, oh goodness, where Prince is saying, ooh, I don't want to sing. Am I going to sing? Okay, it's the end where you put up the lighters and he's like, hoo, 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 hoo. And he's just following the music with the oohs. Hoo, hoo, hoo. And the music is going. And you were in the audience, and those of you, anyone that I've offended with my singing, just go with it. And so you're in the audience, and everybody has their phones on or lighters up, and these lights are on, and it's just, whew, it's transcendent, right? It touches you inside. It doesn't matter if you can't sing, because clearly I've demonstrated that it doesn't matter. But it was this euphoric experience, and it was joined with all of the people around the entire arena, right? And so thought has either depressing or buoying power. And depending on what you are thinking depends on whether you get drawn down, weighted down, or whether you get pushed up. And that's the power of thought. And so when we talk about that prayer works according to the law of mind action, that you realize that the thoughts held in mind reproduce after their own kind. And so if you've been in a situation like that, you know what that feels like, where you have just been lifted, and it's a vibration, right? And that's the beauty of artists, and art at its highest form does that for us, right? That it lifts us. Constance says, girl, you just gave me chills, good ones. Good. Apparently there's a technical issue, because Constance says, can't see you in Google, so hanging out here. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if I did something or, oh no. Okay, I just got there's a glitch. All right, let me try this. Share. All right, so apparently there's a glitch. So I just gave Ray, I don't know what room they're in, but I think what it is that, yeah, no, okay. There's been a glitch. Try this link. You know what? Maybe it didn't copyright. Oh Lord. All right, Constance, try that link and see if that works. The link that I just put in there. Oh no, this is no good, y'all. Oh no. I think my email may have been off. Maybe that's what was going on. Oh. All right. All right. I forgive you, Sherri. I forgive you good. All right. Okay. Anyway, back to the Prince thing. The point is that with thoughts, thoughts have mass. And you know this by whether or not the thoughts that you think are weighing you down or whether or not they're picking you up. And they don't leave you neutral. That's the thing. There are no neutral thoughts. Now, there may be degrees in terms of how high it lifts you or how low it brings you down, but there are no neutral thoughts. It's moving you in one direction or another in terms of weighing you down or lifting you up. And so, hey, I don't know what I think I know what happened. I think the email I sent out had a bad link. So mercy, Sherri. All right. Anyway, let me keep going. So the thing about the thought and the law of mind action is that there are three rules, if you will. She calls them modes. There are three rules as far as how it operates. And the first one, oneness. Oneness. And this is powerful, that the first mode or the first rule that governs the law of mind action is oneness. And so let's talk about that. So the thing is, and this is what she says on the text that I have on page 11, is that God mind is one with its ideas, even after the ideas manifest in the material world. God mind is one with its ideas, even after the ideas manifest in the material world, for the very stuff that underlies everything in the material world is the substance of God. So, in other words, and this is how Michael Beckwith said it, is that behind every human aberration is a spiritual aspiration. That what we think of as experiences that are unlike God are still one with God. That there's nothing outside of oneness. And it was really powerful. I went to a memorial service last week or maybe the week before last, and there was a minister there and who was eulogizing or sharing a reflection on what she learned from the person that we were memorializing. And she said that he taught her about oneness. And this is when they were early on in ministry. They were both new ministers, and he was working with and counseling a group of pedophiles, and she was just disgusted by it. She was completely disgusted by this idea that he was showing compassion for these pedophiles. And so she said this in a joking manner, reflecting on herself as a younger minister. She was like, you know how we can have this idea of oneness, but, and there's always a but. And the thing about oneness is that there's nothing and no one outside of the oneness of God. And in terms of the law of mind action, is that there is no thought that has been manifest that did not first begin as a God thought. There is no thought that has been manifested that did not first begin as a God thought. Okay. Think about what's happening right now in our world with ISIS or with police brutality or with the election and the hate-filled rhetoric that has been coming through the airwaves, right? Those expressions are still linked to the presence of God from which they were birthed. Meditate on that. Oneness, nothing falls outside of oneness, no matter how depraved it is. And so this minister was reflecting on needing to begin to open her heart to see that even though this was behavior that she does not condone, that she does not believe is right, and I don't believe is right, I don't think you should believe is right either, but that even pedophiles fall inside the heart of God. Even rapists fall inside the heart of God. There's nothing outside of God. And so that's the thing with oneness, is that that oneness is pervasive. It is all pervasive. And so that's the powerful thing to hold on to, especially when you're looking at an experience. It doesn't mean that these experiences are right. Remember we talked about the difference, that there are thoughts that weigh you down and there are thoughts that lift you up. And so you can truck in hate, you can truck in depressing thoughts, right? And that's going to recreate after its own kind. So I'm not telling you that the hate that's going on, or ISIS, or this police brutality, or any of that is right in any way. What I am saying is that it doesn't fall outside of the oneness with God. And because of the all-pervasive nature of God, that God is all there is, that even it is connected to the oneness. Constance says that takes some spiritual understanding. The God thought is, let's say, love, and depending on the consciousness of your understanding of love, it comes forth. Yes, that's it. That's it. When you look at the hate-filled rhetoric that is coming out of some of the campaigns that have been run this election season in the U.S., I don't have any doubt that the people who are propagating the hate think that they are expressing love for their country. So love depends on the consciousness through which it's being pressed through. And even though it looks crazy as, I don't know the word I want to say, even though it looks crazy as I don't know what, I do know what, but I can't say that word on the air, and I won't say that word. It still is connected to the oneness. You can't get rid of the oneness. You can't unconnect yourself from God, including atheists. I like to pick on atheists because I don't believe that there's a such thing as atheists. So, you know, that's me. Phyllis says, there is now proof that our minds are hardwired. Our thoughts produce chemicals in our body as a result of thoughts. Yes, yes. Positive thoughts give rise to health-supporting chemicals, while negative thoughts give rise to harmful chemicals. Yes. Yes. Hi, Mary. Let me see. Mary sent me a thing. She said that people... Mary, please use this link. Yes, I think I sent the wrong link out in my email today. Sorry. Mercy me, Sherry. Andrea said, it is tied to our thinking process. The divine idea is filtered through the individual's consciousness. Based on what is happening in that person's soul will determine how it manifests. Yes, yes. Casa says crazy as pudding in snow. Yes, it's as crazy as that. Yes, that's it. That's it. So that's the first way. The second way that this law of mind action work, or rule, is order. Order establishes the right sequence for events. Order establishes the right sequence for events. Often we want to dwell in houses that we have not yet built in consciousness. And I thought this was powerful, that order is often called right timing, right? And what she says is that the divine ideas, this is on page 15 that I'm reading from, the divine ideas that make an environment suitable for the manifestation of God's image come into being first. In other words, God prepares places before he prepares people. So sometimes the thing that you want is not yet yours, not because the answer to the prayer is no, but because the place and the environment, in order for it to exist, has not yet been brought into manifestation. For example, because I'm like I said, I'm in the midst of reading John D. Rockefeller's biography, Titan, which is powerful. That one of the things that happens with Standard Oil is that it sets the stage for the eventual creation of the Ford Motor Company. There was no way to power these cars until Standard Oil had done what it had done. Had not Standard Oil been built or created, then there would have been no platform on which the Ford Motor Company or any other motor company, Daimler, what was the other one called? Benz. There's no other companies before they were a unit, Daimler Benz, but when it was just Daimler and Benz separately, there would have been no platform for them to come in on. And so a lot of times the things that we want, the consciousness does not yet exist in order to support what it is that we want. Flight had been imagined before flight was ever realized, and you can look at the Vitruvian Mail that Leonardo da Vinci drew to show you that the thought was there, but the environment was not yet right in order to bring forth the idea. And so sometimes we have an idea for which the right timing is not there. And we think that it's not, that we're being told no by God, but there's no such thing as being told no by God. Every prayer is answered yes. Because every prayer, even an unrighteous prayer, meaning I'm praying for somebody else's husband, right, or something crazy like that, or I'm praying for something bad to happen to somebody, right? Remember that the oneness includes everything. Back of the human aberration is a spiritual aspiration. Back of the desire of what I'm asking for, even though it's an unrighteous desire, the root of it is spirit. The root of it is spirit. And so the answer is not yes to the craziness. The answer is yes to the little bitty part of it that is still connected to God. Because the answer is always yes. God always says yes. You gotta say amen and allow it then to come into being. Ray says our consciousness has not been developed to receive. Yes, that's it. That's it. That's it. Mary, were you able to try that link? See if that link works for you, so you're able to come in. Anyway, keep going. So order. So order. The law of mind action works according to order. That you have in your mind the way you want something to play out. But because we have a localized view versus the panoramic view that God has, we can't see all the things that need to manifest before what you want can come into being. One of the benefits of reading the biographies of people who accomplish a lot is that you get to see the incremental steps that the person makes to get to where they are. An author that I like and a motivational speaker that I like is Dr. Eric Thomas. Dr. Eric Thomas began as a homeless teenager who had essentially run away from home, angry about the abuse from his stepfather, and angry at his mother for not protecting him. There's a whole lot more to that story, but that's kind of the nutshell of the story. And living on the street, he still continues high school. He wasn't a good student, but he still goes to school because he's in Detroit and the school is warm. So go to school. The one thing that he had, right, because when you hear the story, well, he was homeless and all this stuff, and he was running, there were gangs and all, but what he had was that he was in a church that was feeding him spiritually. And so whereas it may look outwardly that he came out of nowhere, and that's a little bit of the story details, like, you know, I came from being homeless, but there were seeds that were being planted in his consciousness from the place where he was studying spiritually. And so what it helps you when you read the biographies of people who've accomplished a lot is that it helps you see the incremental steps. It helps you see how all the pieces start to fit together, and you're able to see that there's an order to how things play out. And you know, one of the things that he did when he was in this church was that he was very interested in helping other people. He always had a heart for helping other people, and his heart for helping other people then leads to the pastor taking an interest in him and paying for him or helping him get into college and get well, first of all, get a GED, but then get the resources that he needs to be able to go to college. And so if you just look at he has a GED, you miss all the other steps that are part of the order of him getting to becoming the PhD that we think about him as today. So that order, that there's a right order to things. You just don't jump out of one thing and become something else. Another way to think about this, if you look at Oprah, right, and you look at the experience that she's having now with OWN, that in order for her to establish who she was, it started as her being a reporter. What reporter thinks of themselves as one day owning a whole television, television network, network, not just a studio, a network, right? But there is this order, and one thing has to follow another, and oftentimes what happens is that we get frustrated. We get frustrated that, and we take our attention off of the manifestation because it feels hard or too challenging, or we just don't want to. It just feels like we'll never figure out how to solve the pieces. I use this metaphor in a conversation recently, and I really liked it. I'm going to share it with you tonight. I was working with Jordan on a puzzle, and it's a little train. And if I had it close to me, I would be able to show it to you. But it's a train, and it's there's 20 pieces to the train. They're interlocking, and they form a train with numbers. So 1, 2, 3, all the way to 20. And as we were sitting down and working on the puzzle pieces, he was getting frustrated, and he just started scattering the pieces. And I was like, no. Come back and like go get that piece. Okay, now where is this? And so he's still learning to recognize numbers. So right now he knows animals, but he doesn't necessarily know numbers. And so we're working with, okay, can you find a 2? Okay, we'll find I know the 2 has bumblebees. Find the one that has bumblebees on it. So he finds the one with bumblebees. And so when he was first putting it together, there's a way that it fits together, and there's the wheels on the bottom of the train, because that's the picture that's on the puzzle. And at first he had, like, say, the one piece turned right side up, but he had the 2 piece turned the opposite direction, and so the train wheels are at the top. Now, me looking as an adult, I can see that, just match where the train wheels are. But it took him a minute to perceive, wait a minute, the train wheels need to match where the train wheels are on the bottom so that it'll interlock properly. And then he would, put another piece, and then he'd get frustrated. And he kept doing that, where he would try to put the train wheels on top, and then he would figure out, wait a minute, let me turn, and they go to the bottom. And it struck me that that's what happens in life, that oftentimes we're working with the puzzle pieces of our lives. And we've got, each of us has puzzle pieces. We've got the jobs we work, the relationships that we're in, the projects that we've started and haven't finished, the dreams that we have, all these different puzzle pieces. And they fit together. And sometimes what's happening is that what looks like stuck to us is actually us having the piece turned upside down. And what we need is to work with the presence of God in our lives to figure out how to turn the puzzle piece right side up. So you already have all the puzzle pieces that are going to fit into you becoming whoever you're meant to become. But you're fitting them together in a way that they don't go together. And your frustration is interfering with your ability to hear the still small voice. Now, what worked in the situation with Jordan is that I kept saying, well, look for this piece that has the bumblebees on it. So I was giving him the information in the way that he could receive it. He cannot yet recognize the numbers 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? Those numbers are still not 100% recognizable to him. But he does know the animals. And that's the thing. When God is giving us instructions, he gives it to us in the way that we can understand it, right? So he's not going to tell us 1 and we don't know what 1 looks like. He's not going to tell us 2 and we don't know what 2 looks like. You know bumblebees? Go find the one with the bumblebees, right? That's how he instructs us. He gives it to us at the level that we can receive. The challenge is that the only reason Jordan could finish the puzzle is he was willing to listen and willing to keep trying, even though he kept getting frustrated. But with us, we get frustrated and we quit. And so there may be companies, charities, buildings, all kinds of things that are meant to come through us, but we never get there because we get frustrated and we start scattering the puzzle pieces. Oh, this will never work. I'll never get this puzzle together. But there's a right order. And the way that this puzzle is set up, you can only put one piece next to the other. Like it's not like it's not a square puzzle, it's a train puzzle, right? So it has to work in a sequential order, which is the way that our lives work, right? And so we're frustrated because we want the manifestation that's 20 pieces down the road, and we don't realize we're on step 4. And if we would just work with 4 and 5, you can just get 4 and 5 to fit together. Just do 4 and 5. Don't worry about 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. God will get you what you need when you get to 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Right now you're on 4 and 5. Work with 4 and 5. That's the order. The law of mind action works according to an order. And so an order is heaven's first law. It's not going to bring forth a manifestation that you can't master 6, 7, 8, and 9 if you haven't done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so sometimes we're asking for blessings that are steps 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, but we still have not mastered and taken advantage of the blessings and the lessons that are available at steps 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I hope that metaphor, I wish I could, well, anyway, I don't want to lose any time because we already lost time with the little technical glitch that I created today. But I want to be able to show you this little, like, puzzle, but it's a 20-piece puzzle. It's a wonderful thing. Andrea says, because I cannot see all the steps I'm working on, listening to the guidance and just following that guidance, even if it is just one step. And that's the thing, it's always just one step. God gives it to you at the level that you can receive it. Sometimes we're always like, God, just give me a sign. First of all, I was about to say it's an ignorant concept of God. I don't want to put anybody down. You don't need a sign. What you need is to listen for the way that you get the information. He's not giving it to you in hieroglyphics. You can't read hieroglyphics. You read English, right? What kind of God would God be if he gave you instructions in Spanish and you only speak English? Okay, sorry. Andrea says, I love the way you allow Jordan to be your teacher. Everyone comes into our lives to teach us something. We can't be too proud to learn from our unlikely teachers. Yes, 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 yes. Constance says, and if it don't fit, don't force it. Yes, ma'am. Yes, yes, yes. The third way that the law of mind action works is through circulation. Everything in our universe operates in a circulatory manner. There is no way to escape circulation. I want to help you with that. This is, and if you can get this, this is it. So a lot of people, I think about Reverend Ike, because Reverend Ike got all kinds of criticism, oh, he's money hungry, whatever. He would tell poor people to give. Everything works in a circulatory manner. If you want money, you got to give money. If you want health, you got to give health. If you want peace, you got to give peace. Whatever it is that you want, you got to first give it. That's the way that this universe is set up. And if you don't give it, it can't be had. If you don't give it, it can't be had. So a lot of prayers start with, I don't have. That's a problem. Because nothing from nothing leaves nothing. You will never have. You must begin with what you have. If you want love, stop saying I'm lonely and give love. And love comes because that's how the law works. You have to give what it is that you want to receive. If you're asking, one of the things about Rockefeller, and this is powerful, people think that he became a giver when he became wealthy. But when you go back through his life records and how he gave money, he was giving nearly half of his income prior to him ever having the wealth that we know him for today. This stuff, that's why you gotta read these biographies, because you can get to see it and live in color. I mean, you can listen to the preacher, and the preacher says give, and you're like, oh, yeah, the preacher just wants something. No. You can go back and read his biography. You can go back and look at the evidence. Before he was billionaire Rockefeller, and the thing is, he gave so much. He really was. He was really a generous giver, and he never gave, like other people who had his wealth gave and wanted their names on buildings. His wife, no, that's not true. He gave the money that basically started Spelman College. he refused to have his name anywhere on a building, and the compromise was that he used his wife's maiden name, Spelman, which is how Spelman College got started. University of Chicago, he bankrolled University of Chicago. University of Chicago, the reason it exists today is because of the foundational support that he gave underwriting the operating costs of university for like the first 5 or 6 years of its existence in order for it to be, and he refused to have his name on any building anywhere. And the memorial chapel that's there, the Rockefeller Memorial Chapel, was done after he died. So his giving was in earnest. It was part of his Christian faith, and it was part of how he understood himself. But he gave so much that even when he retired, his money just kept growing and growing and growing and growing and growing. And we sing this song when we do our offering, that you cannot outgive God. You just can't. In fact, try it. Try it. See if you can just give everything and see. Test him. Test it. See if it works. See if it works. Don't take my word for it. Give. Surprise yourself. These aren't things that you have to, like, take my word for it. You can actually go out and do it. So this circulation is the way that the law of mind action works, right? That the thoughts held in mind reproduce of their own kind, and they're circular, right? So when you give sadness, sadness comes back. When you give pain, pain comes back. And when you give joy, joy comes back. When you give love, love comes. And you know this. You have been caught up in a train of thought, so you know these thoughts reproduce after their own kind. And the reason they reproduce in a circulatory manner. So I hope that helps. And I'm going to move on because I got several more slides I got to hit. So the power of your attention. We cooperate with the law of mind action through the practice of positive prayer. We cooperate with the law of mind action through the practice of positive prayer. Why positive prayer? And why use that word? Isn't all prayer positive? No. Some prayer is begging. Some prayer is begins from a position of not having. Some people pray seeing themselves as unredeemable sinners. Some people pray seeing themselves as less than. I have a friend who always say, I'm asking God, but maybe God is, too busy, and there's so much going on in the world that God is too busy to handle my requests. So no, all prayer is not positive, right? So the way that we cooperate with the law of mind action and begin to manifest who we really are is through positive prayer, which is prayer seeing yourself as a spiritual giant that you are, seeing yourself in right relationship to God, knowing that you are infinitely and indissolubly and unquestionably connected to God, no matter how depraved your experience may be. Meaning you may be living unrighteously in some areas in your life, maybe in terms of your health, or maybe in terms of your relationships, or maybe in terms of your connection to money, or you may be living in unrighteous ways, right? But no way that you are living disconnects you from God. There's not that you can't do anything to disconnect. You can't unplug yourself. There's no unplug button for you as a spiritual being. And so your attention is powerful because the more attention you pay to something, the more important and influential it becomes in your life. Now, how is this connected to prayer? Prayer is directing your attention. Prayer is intentionally directing your attention to the things of God. Positive prayer is doing it in a way that lifts you up. Positive prayer is doing it in a way that lifts you up. When you pray as if you are less than the lowest of the low, well, you've already been in a situation where when you think negative thoughts, they drag you down. You have felt, I know I have felt sometimes weighed down by some of the thoughts that I have allowed myself to think. And so the power of your attention is that it drives up your energy, your experience when you engage in positive prayer. It focuses your attention in a way that is positive, that is uplifting, and that is inspiring. And so you become enthused or filled with theos, filled with God. We have two tools to govern our attention. And the first is denials. Denials are the tool that God gave us so that we might have power over negative experience. Oftentimes, when we're in the midst of an experience, we feel linked to that experience in such a way that we think that there's nothing that can separate us, and so we fight against the experience. I think about this especially in regards to police brutality and stuff that's happening right now in the U.S. And many of us are linked to this experience of police brutality in a way that we're fighting the experience instead of denying the power of the experience. And there's a difference. It's not semantics. What denials do is they break the yoke of the experience. They break the belief that the experience is real. They break the belief that the experience is real. Here's what I mean. I don't mean that people are not getting shot. I don't mean that people are not being mistreated. What I mean by not real is that the experience has some kind of permanence. And in order for you to get rid of the experience, you first have to affirm your power over the experience, and the denial is how you do that. So one of the things that was happening is that the job that I had before I got into full-time ministry, I was ultimately released from that job. Layoff, call it whatever you want to, but it was a release. And there was a day coming when I was no longer going to have that job. And I made the conscious decision not to fight it. And I said, you know what, I'm going to embrace this moment, because when I'm done with this experience, I want to be completely done. I don't want to walk out the door still attached in any way. And so I'm going to show up 100%, and I'm going to embrace that this job is ending, and I'm going to let it go. And but the denial was that my happiness is not contained in this job. My financial stability is not contained in this job. This is a channel, and if God created this channel, God will create another channel. So what denial does is it denies the power of anything to take your happiness, to take your joy, to take your livelihood. I'm working with someone on a project, and someone else on the team made a mistake, and it meant that the other person had to do some cleanup, and the person kept saying, "I'm going to be ruined. This is horrible. This is a bad experience. This is going to ruin my reputation in this town." And it was like, you better first watch your words, but two, don't say that around me. I don't want to hear that. No, I'm never ruined by somebody's mistake. Even my own mistakes, I'm not ruined by. I am, and so what the denial does is it denies the power of a mistake, the belief that some type of mistake has some type of lasting effect, or some kind of change in the outer has a lasting effect. And this is helping to direct the attention. So I may not be able to stop the job ending, right? The layoff is happening. But what I can do is not get caught up in the worry about what is coming. I cannot get caught up in the fear about what will happen. What if I don't find a job? What if there's going to be a gap between this job and the next job? What if, right? And what denial helps you to do is to break the belief that things have to go badly because things are changing outwardly for me and for you. Phyllis says, see yourself as son, all that I have is yours. Yes. Naomi says, so denials help you acknowledge truth and not what you're currently perceiving. Exactly. So it's not about being in denial, right? So she gives the example in the book that I think is pretty powerful. She says, for instance, suppose a man who practices positive prayer loses his job, At first, like most anyone, he might react with fear, anger, and worry, but quickly he will be likely to remember a more constructive way to deal with the apparently adverse situation. It is to deny power to the situation with words such as these: the lack of a job is powerless to take or keep my good from me. So what the denial does, it doesn't say the job loss is not happening. It's happening. Right? I'm not going to fight the fact that police are disproportionately killing young black men and women, right? I'm not denying that that's happening. What I'm denying is my powerless against it. Does that make sense? That kind of and so I can begin to do something about it when I don't believe that I'm powerless against it. But when I think that my effort is not going to make a difference, that's when I throw up my hands. When I think that, what does it matter? Let me just go do whatever because what I do is not going to make a difference. No, what I do makes a difference. What I do makes a difference, and it doesn't just make a difference in my world, it makes a difference with a ripple effect. And I may not see all the ways that my choices play out and impact the world, but I know that I'm connected to all there is, and what I do and when I follow the will of God in my heart, it absolutely has a positive impact on the entire planet because I'm that powerful, and so are you. Then she goes on to talk about affirmations. With affirmations are the tool that we have to plant new thoughts. So here's the thing, when you remove a thought, that space is still magnetized for that thought. So you may say, well, like she said in the book, that the lack of a job is powerless to take or keep my good from me. That space is still magnetized in the belief that you're powerless about losing a job. And so the affirmation always follows, and if you rewires, if you will, or remagnetizes that space for something better. And so you always follow a denial with an affirmation, and this is what she suggests. So then he would affirm the presence of good with words such as these: there is a perfect job at perfect pay where I can serve in a perfect way awaiting me right now, thank you God. And so affirmations plant new seeds. So when it's like when you clear a space, you've got to put something else there because the space is magnetized for what was there. And so if you want something different in your mind, you've got to fill it in with something better. If you want something different, you don't just clear the space, you fill it with what you do want. Prayer is a mental act, and this is the last part. Our souls are threefold in nature: the superconscious, the conscious, and the subconscious. And then we're going to tie this whole thing together with the attention and your mind and how prayer works. Prayer is a mental act. Our souls are threefold in structure. There's the superconscious, conscious, and the subconscious. And remember I was talking about the puzzle pieces before. With the superconscious, this is the still small voice. We're constantly receiving intuitive impulses from Spirit, always. Whatever God is ever doing, God is always doing. So if God is ever speaking to you, God is always speaking to you. The question is whether or not you're listening, right? In the superconscious phase of mind, this is that aspect of our mind that is constantly connected to God. Constantly connected to God. There's no point of disconnection. We're always constantly connected. When we say things like, I need to hear from God, it means really what you're saying is I'm not listening. But if you're being positive about it and you're affirming, what you're saying is I want to now become consciously aware of what's already being said to me, right? The Spirit is always speaking. There's not a point where, when we talk about I need to hear from God, what we're saying is I want to take my attention off of all of the things in the world, and I want to give it to the power and presence of God that indwells me. And I use my affirmations and my denials to do that. So I start to deny, in prayer, one of the things that we do in prayer in UFBL and in New Thought is you always say, just let's take a deep breath. right? Because it's like, let's disconnect from whatever came before. Usually the person's praying will follow with, we let go of all that has come before this moment. If there's anyone that we need to forgive, we forgive them right now. Like we start to detach from the physical world and to give our attention to God. With the superconscious, the conscious, and the subconscious phase of mind, prayer is mental. And remember at the beginning I said the subconscious mind, that out of the heart come the issues of life. Out of the subconscious mind comes the experience. In prayer, what you are doing is you are directing your attention to the power and presence of God that is always there, so that your subconscious mind may be impressed and push out a new type of experience. So how prayer works, I've gone through a lot of different explanations, and I want to tie it all together for you. That it works according to the law of mind action, which is the thoughts that you hold in mind reproduce after their kind. And there are rules that govern it, which is that there's a oneness, that there's no thought that happens that presses out into experience that somehow disconnects from God, that everything is included in the oneness. Also the order, that there's an order to how manifestation happens. And so it is learning to accept the order in which your blessings need to come. And then there's a circulation, that what you circulate comes back. That when you discipline yourself to not get frustrated when you can't figure out the puzzle, but to simply lean in and to keep looking until you can see the right way that the puzzle pieces fit together. And then to manage your attention using the tools of denials and affirmation, disconnecting from the things that seem to have power over you and giving your attention to the things that you do want in your experience, right? And this happens in a small way when we're talking about our own personal stuff. It also happens in a grand way when we're talking about impacting the world for the benefit of not just ourselves but all people. And when we do that, when we give our attention to God wholly and completely, our subconscious mind, or the heart, gets impressed by God. And whatever impresses itself on the mind expresses itself. Whatever impresses eventually expresses. And the more that we give our attention to God, the more we become impressed by God. And the more we become impressed by God, the easier and more ably we express God. So this is how prayer and why prayer works. One thing I wanted to say that I thought was powerful in the book, and this is a little, not off topic, but it's off topic for the direction that I went tonight. One of the things that she talks about, the conscious phase of mind, this is on page 20, she says, though the conscious mind connects us with the material world and does many things, it is the smallest phase of mind, for it operates only in the present moment and only when a person is awake and aware. We give so much attention to the conscious mind, conscious phase of mind. But one of the things that Joseph Murphy asserts, and he said this in Think Yourself Rich, and it really stayed with me, is that behavior is compulsive. Literally 45% to 50% of what we do in a day is habit. But behavior is compulsive because it grows out of what we've been doing and developing in our subconscious mind. That nothing comes out of nowhere. It comes out of what we've been cultivating in our hearts. And so the work that we must do is to stop thinking that what we think consciously. So a lot of times, I think this is why people don't believe that we create our own experience. Because when we say thoughts held in mind reproduce after their own kind, they only think of the thoughts that they're thinking consciously. But that's the smallest part of your mind. The vast majority of your mind is the subconscious mind. And in the subconscious, it is like an endless, it has no boundaries and no bounds, that the endless, vast array of everything that you have ever done, everything that you've ever heard or perceived is lodged and cataloged in your subconscious mind. A great movie that I think does this in a good way and fun is Inside Out. It's an animated film, I think, that DreamWorks or Pixar, one of them, that Pixar put out. Really, really wonderful animated explanation of like how the mind works, and I think it's light enough that anybody can look at it and see. And you see all the like these catalogs of information about how like that are kept of every experience, and your subconscious mind is just recording it. And that's why when they say, you know, once you learn to ride a bike, you never forget, because it's just retaining all this information. Like once you learn it, it's learned, it's there, and you never have to go back and relearn it because it's there. And you can recall it, even if you have to stumble a little bit when you get back on the bike, it comes back to you like riding a bicycle. That's the power. And so when we say thoughts held in mind reproduce after their own kind, it's those thoughts. If you only had to worry about what you think consciously, we'd all be Rockefeller. You know? Shoot. Anybody can watch them conscious thoughts. It's the vast array of the subconscious thinking. That's the booger. That's the thing that you're working. And so sometimes when we're trying to change and it feels frustrating with changing, is that it feels like this is never going to work. But really what's happening is that you're trying to change. It's like you're moving a big ocean liner. And you want to turn it like you got a little tugboat, but you got a big ocean liner. And if you've ever been on a cruise, you know how long it takes for that ship to turn around. And it just moves slowly. It's like right? And it takes forever, right? But then finally, once it's turned and moving, you can begin to pick up speed. And that's how it is with our thinking, is that we've got this vast ocean liner of the way that we've been thinking. And changing it is a process. And oftentimes we get frustrated through the process. And so my call to action for you tonight is to not get frustrated through the process. Lean in, trust God, do the work. The key to effective positive prayer is through impressing the subconscious. That's the key. And so now it's time to do something. My question for you tonight is, so now does it resonate more deeply when you hear the aphorism, every thought is a prayer? Because you can see that every thought impresses the subconscious mind. And the most effective way to impress the subconscious mind is through prayer. But every thought is a prayer. And what kinds of changes will you make to your prayer life after tonight's conversation? What will you do differently? And then if you are new to this, or this is your first time coming to this, what other questions do you have about how and why prayer works? If you could leave me a comment on the YouTube video for this lesson. Any questions? Any questions? Phyllis says, creating and using affirmations is a great way to begin to create the mind shift that will result in a different action. Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Eve. Eve says, powerful teachings on prayer tonight. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Oh, Naomi says, yes, I was captivated during the whole lesson. Yay! Thank you, thank you, thank you. Sorry for the glitch, y'all. I sent out the wrong link. Gosh. I normally check the link, but I was rushing. Because if I'm telling the truth today, I kind of indulged myself today. I was binge watching Greenleaf, and that's it. I gotta own up to it. That's really what happened. I wasn't careful as I normally am. But Greenleaf is awesome. So great. Thank you guys. Thank you guys. Thank you. Any other questions on prayer? So next week, this book is powerful. This book, the way she lays it out, she's so simple, you know. She's so it's so straightforward. I really like this treatment on prayer that she's giving. And I love that she just opens up with, you know, let's talk about how it works. So so next week we're on chapter 2. Hold on. I think I did something crazy, y'all. Oh no, I didn't. Okay, I got it. Chapter 1 was about positive prayer, so I skipped chapter 1. To pray constantly. All right, well, read chapter 1 is good, but we just did chapter 2. Oops. All right, so chapter 3 next week. It starts on page 23, and it's to pray constantly. And so chapter 23. So about positive prayer, you know, read it, whatever. So maybe I'll have an opportunity to circle back to it. But hopefully I think it's clear. She just, what she does in chapter 1, which I thought was the introduction, is that she talks about how Jesus used positive prayer. She talked about, you know, Paul and he was even more emphatic about positive prayer. And, you know, when he writes, finally, brethren, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is gracious, if there is any excellence, if there is anything worthy of praise, think about these things. And you guys know that as Philippians 4:8. But she just lines up and demonstrates that positive prayer is not new, that positive prayer is something that was taught by Jesus and then subsequently taught by Paul. So thank you guys so much. Thank you for tonight. Dr. Darrell Pulley says, I'm a positive person that prays positive prayers, therefore I get positive results. Yes, 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 yes. Thank you guys. Thank you for tonight.